What's up, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Aha, and we're back with the final demo, early version, alternative version. In this case, it's a demo on the second disc of the 20th Anniversary Edition of Analogue, and it's the demo version of The Summers of Our Youth. Now, again, looking back on my early journey through Aha, this one is one I remember because a number of folks pointed out to me when I did the reaction, and I was thinking the vocals were surprising, and I wasn't like, is that really Morton? But no, of course it's not Morton, it's Mags, and I would eventually go through solo Mags material. And now when I have re-listened to the album track, The Summers of Our Youth, it does make me laugh a bit that I didn't realize it was Mags. But again, number one, it was early in my journey through Aha's material. Secondarily, I've been aware as I've gone through certain bands' catalogs, and Aha as an example. Again, I knew basically one track when I went into the deep dive, where I become very worried or hesitant about saying something where I may be getting beyond what I actually have the knowledge to say. Because again, I know a lot of people who follow these different deep dives, and certainly people in the Aha family have been following this band going back to when these albums came out and have been immersed in Aha and their music for much, much longer than I have. And so to say something definitively, I'm running the risk of being wrong and also a bit presumptuous. Now, it's an irony, right? Because by not making a statement that, like, wait, that can't be Morton, I end up being wrong in a way that I'm trying to avoid. But nevertheless, this tune is, I think, a perfect example of the Mag sound, if that makes sense. Not just vocally, but it sounds like it could be on one of his solo albums. So definitely there's a bit of that, like, humanity, but also frailty that comes through. And yes, I think it's a beautiful tune. I wouldn't say it's like heavenly melancholic, but it definitely has a bit of emotional tension just in the vibe. Like before you even get to the lyrics, I think the atmosphere of the tune has a bit of that emotional tension or longing in it. So definitely a song that I think fits well within his catalog. In any case, this is a demo, so maybe it will sound less fully developed. Maybe it just won't have quite the shine of the the mastering. Although even then, I'd say the album track, it sounds a bit, what's the right word? Not imperfect, but it sounds like it has that, I don't know, angst. I'm trying to think of the right word, but yes, like a bit of that emotional complication that I think Mags does so well. And again, right down to the vocals, because again, his voice, it's not this angelic, soaring voice that Morton has. It's a voice that is a bit more terrestrial, a bit more everyman, if you will. So, yes, given that, I wonder if the demo will sound notably, again, like less fully produced, is I guess the way I'll say it. So, I'll be on the lookout to catch any differences I can. This is the demo version of Aha's Possessive, The Summers of Our Youth, which is the last bonus track on this 20th Anniversary Edition of Analogue second disc.
There's nothing you can say to make me change my mind. It happens all the time. Just let the blood unwind as we look back and see our yesterdays entwine, the beauty and the truth, the summers of our youth. And you can go there anytime, the movie's on your gonna do to make a change the way you Our life's a precious gift. You felt it once or twice, but everything comes once, but once a million times. But you can find it anywhere. You know I speak the truth. I wish there was a way back to the summers of our youth. What you gonna do when time is up? What you gonna do to make it stop? What you gonna do when lights go out? What you gonna think it's all about?
God, Mags is so cool. He definitely, he brings something. I mean, I've talked about it before, like the magic of Aha, like as I've come to understand it. It's the intersection of all of their, not only musical abilities and vocal abilities, but their personalities and their creativities. So I like them all each individually, but it's funny again, like Mags apostrophe, his voice, like there's something that is like just so enjoyable about it, despite it being a less perfect voice than Morton's, in that again the sort of the imperfections and the human nature of it, meaning like, you know, human nature is to not get everything right, not to be exactly what you might want to be, like all of that comes through in his vocal delivery. So yeah, now I do think maybe this vocal recording has a bit more, I don't know, frailty in it than the one on the actual album. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I will say the one thing that maybe is most different, or at least that was catching my ear and I wasn't thinking about in relation to the actual album track, that little fluttering sort of backing sound, the sort of like wavering element, that felt like louder, like I was noticing it more than in the final album version. So maybe it's mostly different in kind of the mixing of it. And again, it would make sense. If it's a demo, it hasn't been fully, you know, mastered and with the, you know, the levels altered to, you know, create the perfect mix of the track. So maybe that's mostly where this one is different. But in terms of like the overall atmosphere and sound, I don't think it's terribly different from the final track. There was that kind of real electric, intense sound that comes in, you know, roughly halfway, maybe a bit into the second half of the tune. That struck me as maybe a little bit different than it is in the album version as well. But ultimately, you know, it's essentially the same track. But it's still cool. Again, you get to hear the way a tune was recorded before it was finalized for the album version. And that's something which, you know, I've experienced more with Aha's music than, you know, any other deep dive that I'm doing. Which, again, I very much enjoy the sense of the process, and ultimately I think it's to Aha's credit that they've now, you know, and not just here obviously, but on previous deluxe editions and so on, they've released a lot of that, right? So there's a lot of the process, whereas again, like, you know, some bands, you don't get to hear demos, you don't get to hear early versions and so on. Never mind, like, you know, just sort of workshopping with the, Sail On, My Love, the very early just kind of workshopping of Stay on These Roads. So again, just hearing Aha's process has been very enjoyable. So I've especially enjoyed going through this second disc of the 20th Anniversary Edition of Analogue. As I've mentioned, there's a couple remixes on the first disc which are calling my name, so we will go through the first of those next time. And yeah, so let me know what you think of this demo version and of the second disc on the 20th Anniversary Edition overall, and I will see you in a moment for a live Aha performance. Peace.